In part 1 and part 2 of this series, we built a turntable and then we built a phono preamplifier. Part 3 follows now. So the next stage really is to build the control amplifier or the preamplifier. And as usual, there's many legendary designs to pick from. And I've chosen a clone of the Accuphase 3850 as the basis of a high quality control amplifier. And the parts kit for this can be sourced for maybe $30 or so. Now the original list price for a 3850 made by Accuphase was $43,000 so a DIY approach might appear to be the bargain of a lifetime. Now my homebrew effort might not be quite so sublimely and utterly beautiful as the original, of course, but it'll still work. Now this control amp is going to deliver some 10 to 15 dBs of gain, provide several inputs for phono and radio and CD, and must implement a volume control. Tone controls are optional and I'm choosing not to implement any such means to modify the audio, preferring to play our LPs exactly as the artist and the mastering engineer expected. So the 3850 schematic is sophisticated and complex, uses a pair of 5534 op amps and 10 transistors per channel in a Class A configuration. So some care is going to be needed in the construction if this thing's going to work to its fullest potential. I've used a CD4017 decade counter IC to select the inputs, in fact, instead of the switch that came with the kit. So there's the schematic there if anyone wants to repeat that, and here you can see how that functions. So here we have it, the completed preamp. The actual aluminium enclosure in fact was more expensive than the other parts, the preamp parts, and some sort of 50 or 60 pounds in fact, and you need to take a lot of care when cutting the holes on that front panel to make it look good. And really those apertures are best cut with an XY table on a milling machine, but I've achieved reasonable results using a pillar drill. Turns out there was enough space in this enclosure to put the RIAA-PCB from part 2 and seemed to make sense to transplant that. So now what we've got is a preamp where input 1 is actually a phono source and then input 2 and 3 will take inputs from a tuner or a CD and that kind of thing. So there it is. You can probably see that I've devoted some time to wire lacing, which is rarely seen nowadays, but does produce rather nice cable harnesses which are visually appealing to my eye at least. I've tested it, I've put some signals in on the inputs and seen them on the oscilloscope, so I know it works. So the next stage really is to build the power stages. Now I was going to build a power amplifier, probably a Class A John Lindsley Hood style thing, but in fact I think before I devote myself to that I might actually build a headphone amplifier, which is simpler to build, mainly because of the amount of heat that a Class A power amplifier produces and the need for massive heat sinking. So I think the next stage, which will be part 4, will in fact be a headphone power amplifier. Part 5 will probably be the Class A power amplifier, and then part 6 should be loudspeakers.